or in the US media particularly, you find media houses in the United States have a definite political narrative. They seem to show their objective, but they have an ideology oriented behind their publications. For instance, I'll give an example. During the elections of 2016 in America, we really saw CNN pro-democratic and Fox News doing the Republican narrative. And this is, with all that within the media space, it is here in Uganda, for instance, it is not as free as it is in the US, because here you are always either pro or against. So with that kind of background, do you think what role does the media have to do in having correct political narratives, not those that are really embedded within the editorial policy of certain within the media space? What role does the media have in correcting this whole political narrative?
I have been a journalist myself for most of my adult life, writing for publication now for some 40 years, and I'm the author of about 36 books so far. Okay. And in many of the books, we have examined the disproportionate projection of the image of African people, not only in the United States, but globally in the US media, which seems to always be centered around preservation of the existent hierarchical caste system within the US social, economic, political structure. As such, we are always cautious about what the media says, how it says it, how it portrays our image, and even to the ways that they have aligned a group of indigenous collaborators, which is their language, to project the messages over our behaviors that they would wish us to cooperate with. And this is particularly true with the projection of Africa. Over the course of my lifetime, Africa has nearly always been projected as the least hospitable, least desirable place on the planet to ever want to go to. I found out on my very second day in Africa that Africa was the home, the welcoming that I'd been longing for throughout my entire life. And on my 7 trips to Africa so far, it has been reaffirmed every time. So there are a couple of points I think are very, very, very needed. For one, points on the media. The Western media is biased against African incumbent leaders. And so as I was looking for information about the details of next Thursday's election there in Uganda, we're seeing the same bias coming from the traditional Western press, the BBC, the Washington Times, or the Washington Post, the New York Times, and many of them seem to always have a biased position against African incumbency. I personally think that is because with incumbency, with longevity, conveys stability. And for the Western hegemony over Africa's economic development, stability is not necessarily something that they want to see African nations have for themselves. So this conflicts, of course, with global imperial self-interest. And this protection of the hierarchical status quo is something very, very important. I personally have been very impressed with Uganda's development in this 3rd generation of leadership. We have to recognize African leadership has taken several major turns in its history since the end of colonial dependency. The first generation of leaders, many were undereducated and unprepared to handle the sophistries of a large government, especially with the borders having been drawn outside of Africa. The second generation, unfortunately, had too many strong men who were even more woefully prepared. They were prepared to take power, but not prepared to govern complex nations. But now we're seeing the emergence of a 3rd generation of African leaders, with some, like His Excellency President Museveni, being the bridge between 1st, 2nd, and 3rd generation leaders. And we should have a great amount of veneration and respect for these elders for what they have done as we welcome in new generations of leaders. So couple of last points. We may have to just close this right now. I'm sending these cautions out of the new incoming regime from Washington, who will be seeking greater influence over Africa. Point 1, they have an affinity with wanting to control our fertility. Point two, they have a long record of interference in our social and cultural norms. Number three, they're interfering in our security affairs. And point number four, the pharmaceutical companies are vying for hegemony over the vast growing population of the African continent, expected to reach 2.5 billion people by the year 2050. And the last point is, you can expect from the new incoming regime another round of anti-African propaganda.
You know, most times when such information comes out within the elite circles, they could dismiss that as more of conspiracy theories. But you've really given us, such information, can easily be dismissed as conspiracy theories. But I believe there is some degree of truth, because in law they always say he who alleges must prove. So I think the proof could be quite clear. I'd like to get back to the studio and start with Comrade Kadu Michael. Getting back here to the Ugandan election, and since you are the head of youth affairs, I think you have noticed this, that yes, we have a president that captured power in 1986, and he said, that he has come to bring, this is not a mere change of guard, but I think that's what he said. This is not a mere change of guard, but a fundamental change. And now with that fundamental change, do you think now with the 35 years NRM has kept in power, do you think the narrative of the youth today is more, they really want to see a mere change of guard, but they cannot define the fundamental change?
I agree with you that youths today have been persuaded into the narrative of a mere change of guard. The Western democracies have for a long time advocated for a copy and paste of their democracy and their systems into Africa. That alone has its own conflict, because the European democracy and its policies usually conflicts in details with the American democracy. Sure. So we have two elephants that are trying to incorporate all they have into Africa, and they have not allowed this continent, this very beautiful continent that received independence quite late compared to the others, to design its own democracy. And in so we are in a turmoil and confusion per se. The two democracies want to incorporate their policies into our own democracy, and they've not allowed Africa to have its own customized form of democracy. Democracy by principle is not bad, but that kind of democracy. So the youths are being used as a tool to front this democracy, this conflict in democracy. So many times, because one would ask, and we've had these conversations with a number of youths and other Ugandans out there, what is the problem? Is it representing the will of the people or change of leadership? In my opinion, I think a leader should represent the will of the people. And if the people, in any case, feel like the current leader is representing their will, that is fine. If they feel like the leader is not representing their will, they can always go into the elections and vote that leader out. So youths in Uganda have been persuaded through a constant flow of indoctrinations to push for change of leadership. And this has been exclusively been influenced by the Western powers that seek, as the previous comrade has said, to put away the incumbents. For the incumbents, have some little bit of stabilization. So democracy is as good as the quality it provides and the solutions it brings forward. Democracy shouldn't be an act. It should be a process that provides solutions. And in any case, if the locals or the citizens of this beautiful country called Uganda, that is independent and sovereign, anytime feel like they need to change a leader, so they should. If they feel like the current is the best option they have, so they should. We should encourage our youths, and I want to talk to them. Dear fellow youths, as you go to the polls on Thursday, think about this beautiful country called Uganda. Think about where we are and where we are heading. Think about the best option of all the 11 candidates that can deliver us to where we want to be. And that should be the reason you should vote, not a change of guard. We should vote for reasons, not for policies that are not even our own policies. And that is very important to state.
Right about now, I think I'm being informed that Mr. Tulu Fred is joining us live from Kenya, Pan-African Congress member from Kenya. Mr. Tulu Fred is a chairman Pan-African Congress. I'm yet to be corrected. I'm corrected. Pan-African Congress Kenya, Tulu Alfred, I would say. Yeah, welcome to the show. And first, quick one to you because you've come a little bit late, so I'll bring you in right about now. Kenya, in of itself, has also had a fair share of its electoral fracas in and of itself, because observations are that in Kenya, and this is what I was looking at when when you could take a bird's and eagle eyes view on Kenya's politics, it seems to be running around three houses, that is the Moi family, Raila Odinga, and Kenyatta family. And there has been a narrative, a dictum that says when one is going to run, the Kiswahili people say, Baba wako ni nani? So if this is what is happening in Kenya, I mean, do you think, though fairly with the democratic practices, it is at a way step ahead more than us, but then what is your take with borrowing a leaf from Kenya's politics?
Thank you so much, comrades, and allow me to also greet other comrades, including Newton Balenzi. I want to start by saying that apologies for joining you late. I think I had network challenges. I've not got an opportunity to hear what you've discussed before, but based on what you've just asked, I want to say that in Kenyan experience, there is a bit of challenge. You know, some of these things are based on how people got their independence, the way you have been socialized. That there are people who fought for Mau Mau, things like that. There are people who have been here, and I think some of the people who are in the political scene are calling such as dynasty. But just like the previous speaker said, what at times is important is what the so-said candidates are able to deliver. If you look at Kenya right now, what we are experiencing is that the big said families have come together to push forward the vision of this country. Depending on how you look at it, there are those who will argue that this is good and that this is bad. But I want to say that from Kenya, based on what happened previously, all of us are aware that immediately after the elections that happened in 2017, there were tensions in this country, and again in 2007. So when Raila Amolo Odinga and Uhuru Kenyatta came together, agreed, and had something that we call in Kenya handshake, most of us thought that it was a good thing to look at, and we appreciate. But from what we are getting now, from what we are seeing, I don't think that it is going to help most of our countrymen, because we've realized that right now there are many cases of intolerance in the country. Corruption is something that we've seen, and even ethnicity is now on its highest level. This is because people who are there who could challenge and question the government are now not able to do that. For instance, Raila Amolo Odinga is now not able to question the excesses of our government. So, you know, he's one of the senior leaders in this country, and whenever he speaks or talks, people listen. Now, if he's in bed with the government, what do you expect? Nothing. So like somebody had said that when we talk of democracy, and the unfortunate bit is that we've borrowed heavily from West. And I think most of you might have discussed what happened in the US the other day. So we believed that what is in US is what is good for all of us, which might be true and not true. So as things stand now, I want to say that though there is relative peace in the country, everything is fine and the challenges of COVID are there. But the bottom line is that, for instance, if you look
about now, I'd like to, as we are ending, I'd like to give each 1 minute. Mr. Comrade Gadda Awadu and Madam. All right. Okay. As they are working on those that are online, I would like to conclude with the people here in the studio. Each 1 minute to give a conclusive remark. As we end the show, then we get back to those that are online. Starting with you, Mr. Daniel, in 1 minute.
Thank you so much. My take is that first and foremost, special interest groups in Uganda, especially as far as the legislature is concerned, have been catered for. The question should be, and this one goes to Kadu and your people, since we introduced the youth, for instance, parliamentarians, what have they done? What have we achieved? You need to interrogate that. Secondly, there is, we talked about the constitutional coups, and I think we didn't give it its due attention. Okay. Truth be told is that we have had a number of constitutions. The American Constitution is in place, for instance, and everything that is done according to the Constitution, but I can assure you there is institutionalized racial discrimination, and whatever the police will do and the brutalization, they will be doing it under the law. Apartheid in South Africa was equally in the law, it was legislated. The question is, you have a constitution, but to what extent is it serving the population? We have to be very careful that we do not tamper with constitutions in a manner that reflects selfishness. Finally, there was the Katurebe judgment in the Mama Mbaba's
versus Museveni
petition,
electoral commission.
and there are a number of recommendations that were made.
Yeah.
I want to ask, to what extent have those recommendations been implemented going on to 14th?
Yeah.
I wish everybody good luck, those who are going to participate as participants at the level of candidates on the 14th.
All right. Going to Mr. Newton Barenzi, your parting shot this morning.
It's like the issue of, I want to emphasize the legitimization of the vote. We must all know that, one, however much elections might be having issues around, especially in Africa, being a growing continent in all aspects. However, still voting remains the only legitimate way to have leadership and legitimize leaders. So therefore, we must protect and guard it. Second issue, election, we have issues because some people ask that observers come here, but they represent only interests of where they come from, Europe, America, and all that. It is true that the Electoral Commission of Uganda gives the opportunity to these election observers to come and participate. So we must respect each other, just as Uganda has the mandate to offer these people an opportunity. Uganda should also respect their input in our elections, and they should also come with only good motives to help us grow our election, because this is a global village.
Okay. Quickly, in just a few seconds, one word, then we give the online also a few seconds just to sign out.
The statistical fact that we are the youngest population in the world can be used both as a tool and a weapon, and a lethal weapon at that. We are heading into the elections, and we shall choose what we want for this country.
All right. Thank you very much. Mr. Gadda, in just 30 seconds, your parting shot this morning.
Out the road ahead. We have the inauguration now of the African Continental Free Trade Agreement gives us a great basis now for collaboration, cooperation, Pan-African development on a new scale. Of course, the second year now of the COVID global pandemic poses a number of challenges, but I suggest that Africa is poised to handle this as well, or maybe even better than many other regions around the planet. I can't wait to get to Uganda, to put my hands in the Ugandan soil and bring forth the life and vitality of a new generation.
All right, Madam Grace Atare, in 30 seconds, thank you for being on the show. Your parting shot this morning.
It's my hope that the Electoral Commission missioner in Uganda gets access to our conversation, because whatever they do from now determines what will be the consequence of their actions from after 14th of January. So it's my hope that they do all they can to make sure that they're independent and they bipartisanly carry out their mandate with the interests of Ugandans, not individuals.
Very much, Mr. K.D. Awadu and Miss Grace Atare, or Comrade Grace Atare, for joining us this very morning and sharing with us and giving us your time. May God really richly bless you. Thank you so much. And thank you so much, my panel that has been with me discussing these pertinent issues. Well, this has been the topical discussion here at Record Television. I hope you've enjoyed yourself and you have learned, because we are here to learn. And the youth that are there, that really you need to tune in every Friday. We'll be having this debate, very educative, and this will catapult you to the next level. Well, allow me to sign out for today. It has been the Daybreaker. I am Heston Munanura. God bless you and bye-bye.